Edizione dopo edizione, il calendario ha sempre seguito l'evoluzione dei linguaggi artistici, fino ad arrivare ad oggi, momento storico in cui la tecnologia digitale si è fusa nell'arte, creando nuove forme di espressione.
La sfida del calendario Lavazza 2013 è una sfida ambiziosa: mantenere alta l'impronta artistica del calendario e contemporaneamente aprirsi al contributo di tutti.
The brief was very interesting because they've been doing calendars for 20 years. It was simply to make the transition from a physical calendar into one that could only exist online. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of reconfigure the idea of time itself. So let's take a day and stretch that day arbitrarily, over 365 days. Every 2 hours is distributed every month. So midnight to 2 a.m. is January, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. is February, and so on. What I usually like to do is start with a sketch, kind of evolves from there. It becomes almost like a stream of consciousness exercise sometimes, working with sampled material. A lot of my work has dealt with the concept of technology, whether it's kind of machine age technology. I made a piece very early on about revolving restaurants that had to do with this kind of dislocation. And I've made work about video games and information junkies and that sort of thing. So for me, this was an interesting challenge to be able to take the idea of time itself and what does time based on consciousness rather than on lunar cycles or daily cycles look like. Depending on the snapshot of that 2-hour period, we multiply and expand. When we go to rush hour, which is more industrious and regimented, it becomes a grid, and it has a kind of urgency about it that reflects that time of day. In looking for images that relate to home, the idea of putting doors within doors suggested this idea of never really arriving home, but yet feeling more comfortable and more connected. I'd like people to participate and connect with their own personal experiences of that time. One of the most interesting things about the project from the beginning was, as much as I generated a very personal, subconscious idea of that time of day, I wanted a much more diverse, kind of democratic idea of what that portion of the day represents to different people. So there were all these small narratives inside the user-generated content that I don't think anyone could have predicted. We got an incredible variety of images and film based on that brief. It only ends December 31st, 2013. That's an important part of the scope of the project. Since there's no physical calendar involved here, we're dealing with time, communication, interactivity online. All those things become a part of the experience, including it changing and evolving during the course of the year itself.